Welcome to the workshop on the topic, the next ransomware attack. Are you prepared? We would like to begin by thanking you all for being a part of Pursuit 2021, Combating Financial Frauds with Technology. The event is supported by Invest India and Startup India. We would like to thank our session partner, Refinitiv, Gold partner, Ricata, Bronze partner on Fido, and Knowledge partner, EY. Without further ado, let me introduce you to Mr. Amit Dubey, National Cybersecurity Expert, India Future Foundation. We will also have Mr. Kanishk Gaur, founder, India Future Foundation, joining us in a short while. They both will be co-hosting today's workshop. Welcome, Mr. Dubey. Over to you.
Thank you so much. Am I audible, guys? Hello? Shivani, can you please confirm if I'm audible?
Yeah, you're audible.
Okay, so good afternoon, everybody. And today, we are going to have a very interesting discussion on this very, very relevant and contemporary topic, because since last 2 years, we have especially seen acute rise on ransomware attacks. And ransomware is something which disturbs the entire ecosystem of security postures of your organization, because we have very few level of support systems available against ransomware. And more than that, what to do when we face this attack, the quick reaction itself is quite tricky here. Whether we should pay the ransom, whether we should try to recover it through some tools, or whether we should rely on our backups, what could be the best option in the situation? And we have seen this the scenario when a series of attacks happened recently, last week itself, and then before that on MD5 Labs and SoftBank, and then Cognizant and many other such companies. Those were targeted by state-sponsored actors and other abusers. Those have exploited the systems. Even Haldiram or these kind of companies were also attacked, and their data was leaked, breached, and it was in dark web eventually. So we'll have this workshop. I'll be joined by Mr. Kanishk Gaur. We'll try to make it more interactive. So we'll plan some questions. You can ask those questions, and probably Shivani will help us to know those questions from you. We'll be covering basics of ransomware first. What exactly is a ransomware? How to spot a ransomware email? If suppose you, because most of these ransomware attack happen because of an email. Otherwise, exploiting your VPNs, Pulse VPN vulnerabilities and all, or exploiting your website itself. So if your website or if anybody's in your network, like your third-party vendors or to whom you are taking these services, their website is compromised and the ransomware is introduced there, and suppose you access that website through your system, probably you will be compromised with that ransomware virus. So that's why not only you, because security is a mutual responsibility. You could be using high-end security provisions and compliances, and you are quite secure in that sense. But then if your partners are not secure, if your third-party vendors are not secure, second or third-party vendors are not that effectively secure, the vulnerability will be, this particular vulnerability will actually help a criminal to reach to your systems as well. So that's why we need to understand it from a holistic perspective. Type of ransomware we'll get to know, how to respond to a ransomware attack if suppose you face that attack, and whether you should pay the ransom or not. This is actually a very tricky question, and it should be handled very judicially in that situation. How to deal with encrypting ransomware? So when your device is encrypted, when your information is already encrypted, when your servers are compromised, how we can recover it, and what all options are available in that situation. So how to decrypt the files, or what all tools are available, advanced decryption tools. I'll share some of these tools with you guys and some of these sources or resources. And restoring backups and reinstallation is the key eventually. Even if you have recovered your files, even if you were able to decrypt your files, uh, getting away with that ransomware is a tricky thing, because just by formatting your systems, just by reinstalling, restoring your backups will not be sufficient enough, because the traces would be there, the ransomware traces would be there. So if you know your ransomware well, there are set of guidelines to remove it completely from your system, and that cleaning part you should know, and you should do it to get away with that completely. And then the most important thing is your legal insurance and compliance, whether we should insure our data server systems for such kind of attacks, what all legal obligations we will have, what all compliances we should do so that we should not be made liable for any such information breach and legal breach in future, data breach in future because of any data privacy bill or GDPR. That all sort of compliance you should follow when you are actually recovering from any such kind of attack. So we'll discuss this in brief, and then probably Kanishk will join us and we'll have a little interactive session, and then he'll take a scenario, a real scenario where any such ransomware attack happened and what all step-by-step process you should follow to get away with that. So if I can share some of the data points, like 22% of the organizations had to cease business operations immediately because of ransomware. So it is so dangerous because if you are relying on data, most of the IT organizations, they rely on information, data points, and if their data is compromised and they can't get away with that situation because there was no backup. And we have observed this. Most of these SMEs, especially startups and SMEs, they don't have proper backup plans traditionally, and that's why they lose their business. And sometimes, and 22% time, they have to shut down their business, close down their complete operations. 81% of the business have experienced a cyber attack. So this is the severity, and out of these 81%, many of them would be, of course, ransomware sort of attacks. 66% have suffered a data breach. So data breach or data compromise, or so if I can give you more detail on that, like any state-sponsored actor would try to create an attack vector based on three objectives. CIA, this we call it CIA triangle, either compromising your confidentiality, or compromising your availability, or compromising your integrity. Confidentiality means he can steal your information and can leak it in public forums or on dark web. Availability means he can either make a DDoS kind of attack or any other kind of attack which can disrupt your system, and the availability of servers or systems would be compromised, where your users will suffer eventually because they can't access it. Just like it happened during IRCTC hack, or it happened recently Covin DDoS attack. So all these things happen because they want to disrupt the availability. And the most challenging part is integrity, which is really, really very serious, where the hackers will try to manipulate the information through some backdoors, and you will never get to know about it. So without your information, without any alert, if suppose your system is manipulating information and your outputs are changed, especially if you have observed the recent Biocon attack, which was where the trial data was compromised, and because this data was manipulated, the results were not proper, and that was one of the reason of delay in launching that vaccine. So all these kind of state-sponsored bodies, they will try to actually challenge your integrity, and CIA is the common motive or motivations of these state-sponsored actors for such kind of organizational attack. 35% were victims of ransomware. So you can see the severity of ransomware here. One interesting example of this Atlanta airport ransomware attack, where they were forced to shut down their complete operation, and it happened because of a Wi-Fi. So this Hatfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport shuts off its internal Wi-Fi network as a security measure in March last year. The city of Atlanta's government network underwent a ransomware attack. Actually, this is last year. Reportedly, files were encrypted and held at ransom is multiple official computers by an attacker known as Samson. And the Atlanta airport switched off the Wi-Fi service to avoid any malicious ransomware spreading to airport authority computers and the airline computers, and possibly customer computers, because this could be the only connectivity points for to enable this ransomware to spread. Now this was a smart move, because it happened in other situations, especially if you have observed the WannaCry or any other such attack. Because they could not isolate the system in time, the spread was quite severe, and it could compromise millions and millions of systems. Let's understand few of these typical ransomwares, because once you understand them well, you can create your recovery options accordingly. Otherwise, you will always be confused in multiple different types of ransomwares. So I'll just briefly give you a few lines about each of these ransomwares. Those are prominently or frequently being used against organizations. Loki is one of them. It was released in 2016 by an organized group of hackers, and with the ability to encrypt over 160 file types, so it can compromise. It can actually target all kind of file types: image file, video files, doc, Windows files, and all other kind of file types. Loki spreads by tricking the victims to install it via fake emails. Now, this is interesting. How would it reach to your system? Through an email with infected attachment. This method of transmission is called phishing, a form of social engineering. We all know about it. Now, this would come either by spoofing your email and sending an email from your CXO's email account to your IT admin and asking them to update a patch or follow a guideline. And in that situation, you will just download that attachment to see the notes, and it will have a release notes, but then it will also have a ransomware attached. And that is something which is actually the most frequent way of compromising a system nowadays. Loki targets a range of file types that are often used by designers, developers, engineers, and testers. WannaCry, we all know about this because this was the most prominent attack on NHS in 2016. And actually, the spread was quite high. It affected millions of computers in across 150 countries. It was designed to exploit a vulnerability in Windows, and it was allegedly created by the United States National Security Agency. Now, this is interesting. It was actually designed or created by NSA and leaked by the Shadow Brokers group. WannaCry affected 230,000 computers globally. The attack hit a third of hospital trusts in the UK, NHS, and they lost close to 92 million pounds. Users were logged out and a ransom was demanded in the form of bitcoins, the usual practice. Bad Rabbit is again a very popular ransomware, which is the method of attack is drive-by attack, where insecure websites are targeted and used to carry out an attack. So what a criminal will do, they will try to find what all websites you frequently browse, or any your CXOs, or who are your partners, or who are your vendors, who are your customers. And based on that, they will try to identify any vulnerable website which they can exploit, and they can introduce a dropper. So basically, through these websites, they incorporate one script, and whenever you access those websites, so if you are normally accessing those websites, but the dropper will be introduced to your browser, and the next target is to install the ransomware through using that dropper. Now, this Bad Rabbit ransomware is actually used that sort of drive-by attack method mostly, and it is using Adobe Flash as a key tool to spread this infection as a malware dropper. Ryuk ransomware, very, very popular. And this year itself, if you have observed from January itself, Ryuk has actually created lots of such disturbances, especially with the medical healthcare companies or medical research organizations and all, including the MD5 lab. And as I mentioned, many such ransomware attack was actually the Ryuk attack. It is also, it disables the Windows system restore option, and it is actually, it not only encrypt the system files, but it also encrypts your backup files, and it also works in network drives. So if any network in any of your servers, any network drive is also connected, it can eventually reach to those components as well if there is no data diode in place. Trolldesk is also a very popular ransomware, and it was spread via spam emails. So basically, all these hackers, they spam multiple, they target multiple organizations by spamming these emails or sending them to their employees, and then eventually exploiting those systems. Jigsaw, it was launched in 2016 again. So interestingly, if you see most of these ransomware, they were popped up in 2016, 17, and 18, and of course in 15. And this attack got its name as it featured an image of the puppet from the Saw film franchisee. So if you have seen that film, Saw, and it is actually using that as an icon, it gradually deleted more of the victim's files each hour. So it is a different kind of attack. It gives you a screen which says that every hour we will be deleting few of your files if you don't pay the ransom. So basically, your heartbeat will pop up, and you will always be under stress that what to do. And every hour you will be losing some or other information. CryptoLocker is ransomware that was first in 2007, but we got multiple versions of it, and it has eventually affected more than 500,000 computers worldwide. And this also gives remote control access to the attackers. Petya, you would have heard about this. This is not to be confused with Xpectre. It is a different malware, but Petya is a ransomware, and it first hit in 2016, and again resurfaced in 2017 as GoldenEye. So if you know GoldenEye, it is actually a next version of Petya. And rather than encrypting specific files, this ransomware encrypts the victim's entire hard drive. It does this by encrypting the master file table and then making it impossible to access files on the disk. So Petya spread through HR departments via fake job application email with an infected Dropbox links. So interestingly, a Dropbox links was created, and it was also shared through Google Drive links. So Google Drive links and Dropbox links or any other such third-party file sharing applications, this Petya is used to and compromise, because see, Google Drive and Dropbox, they don't have very advanced internal scanning mechanism. So normally they can disguise any doc file in a Petya ransomware, and it can be sent as an email or shared through any other communication channel to the targets. GoldenEye is the next version of Petya. It has dubbed WannaCry and Deadly Sterling. GoldenEye hit over 2,000 targets, including prominent oil producers in Russia and several banks. Frighteningly, GoldenEye even forced workers at the Chernobyl nuclear plant to check radiation labels manually, as they had been logged out of their Windows PCs. So when their entire systems are logged out, they eventually have to check their radiation label through manual tools. And GanCrab is a rather an unsavory ransomware attack that threatened to reveal victims' porn web watching habits. It's a different kind of ransomware. It is specifically designed to read those kind of contents. After having first hit in January 2018, GanCrab evolved into multiple versions as part of the No More Ransom initiative, and internally, internet security providers and the police collaborated to develop a ransomware decryptor to rescue victim-sensitive data from GanCrab. So I'll share with you some sources, some resources where from where you can decrypt most of these ransomware encrypted files. Now this is a typical screen. So when you are attacked by any such ransomware, whether it is WannaCry, BadRabbit, or Petya, you would have this kind of a screen, or maybe a text file. Sometime you may even have a text file, and they may ask you to pay the ransom in a Bitcoin wallet. So you can see this is the Bitcoin wallet used for this particular ransomware, and they are asking $300 worth of Bitcoin. Now they'll give you the details like what has happened, what all files are compromised in your system, and then there'll be a clock, and this clock will be ticking every seconds, and they will say like once this clock time will get over, you will not be able to recover your file in future. So basically they try to play with your mind and psychology so that you give up as soon as possible. Now what to do? First of all, in case of such kind of attack, the very first thing, how to identify like how this ransomware have actually reached to your systems. So as I mentioned, like there are multiple ways, either exploiting any network level vulnerability, whether it is a VPN vulnerability or any other gateway vulnerability, or exploiting a vulnerability of your website. So you are accessing your website and eventually the dropper will be installed in your system as a plugin, or sending you an email or message through which it can compromise eventually your system. So the best way to spot a ransomware email is to check the sender. If suppose it is attacked by a sender, you have to actually analyze your emails of the last day, previous day, or maybe a week sometime. And is it from a trusted context? You have to see all the sources from where you have received the email. If you receive an email from a person or company you do not know, always exercise caution. Avoid clicking on links and emails from untrusted sources, and never open email attachments in emails from senders you do not trust. And be particularly cautious if the attachment asks you to enable macros. Now this is the most frequent ways of getting into your system. You will have a doc file, you will have an Excel file, and you will be asked to enable your macros because to see the content. Once you enable those macros, it will open a connection between your system and the attacker system. First, you need to determine whether you have been hit by encrypting ransomware, or screen locking ransomware, or something that is just pretending to be ransomware. So basically, there are three types of ransomware. Encrypting ransomware means it has actually encrypted your files, and it is very, very difficult to decrypt those files because it is highly, like almost 1024-bit encrypted through advanced encrypting mechanisms. And the decrypting key is the only way out to decrypt those files. Otherwise, it may take years to decrypt those files, even with the smart servers and systems. So encrypting ransomware, which is actually the most dangerous, screen locking ransomware, where your screen is locked, so you are not able to browse through your systems, but actually it is not dangerous because it has not encrypted your files. So if you are being attacked by screen locking ransomware, you should not pay any ransom. Rather, you can recover with that situation very easily by just accessing your files through a direct file accessing tools. So there are many forensic tools through which you can connect your hard disk or hard drive directly with them. So instead of using your OS, this hard disk will use that tool's OS, and that they can read directly your files and recover it, and they can get you free from that ransomware. And the last one is which is not a ransomware actually, but it is pretending to be ransomware. So basically, you get a pop-up in your system, and that pop-up can come through various reasons, but your files are not encrypted. But because of this text, you get panic, and then you start taking recovery decisions. And sometimes people even pay the ransom. So you should not react by just reading those texts. Rather, you should first verify which ransomware is this, and what it can do, whether there are any recovery tools available for this ransomware, and then only you should plan your strategy. And if you see a notice claiming to be from the police, the FBI, or the IRS that says you have been caught looking at pornography or filing false taxes and must pay a fine, that is usually a screen locking ransomware. Because there are many such attempts which has happened recently, and I have seen it in India as well, where people got panicked, but they were not attacked by ransomware, but they were. It was just a screen locking software which can be plugged in easily in your browser by just clicking a link. So what to do? If you can browse through your directories or apps, but you can't open your regular Office files, movies, photographs, or emails, then you have encrypting ransomware, which is far worse. So if you can't open your files, but you can browse to your system, which means, yeah, your files are encrypted. If you can both navigate the system and read most files, then you are probably seeing something fake that is just trying to scare you into paying. So you can ignore the ransom note. Try closing your web browser. If you can't, then hit the Control Shift and Escape keys at the same time to open Task Manager. Choose the application tab, right click the browser application, and select the end task. So if it is something which has just compromised your browser, and because of that this all is happening, you can kill this instance easily, as we do on a regular basis when something goes in this like a loop, or if it is hanged, you always go to your administration taskbar and then you kill that task. Should you pay the ransom? Most security experts as well as Microsoft itself advise against paying ransom. There are no guarantee. There's no guarantee that you will get your files back if you pay, and paying just encourages more ransomware attacks. So it is not advisable at all. Don't pay the ransom for screen locking ransomware, of course, because you can recover it from that very easily. However, when you need to recover legal, medical, or business records, because it is something which cannot be regenerated, and if it lost, it can give you it can give you long-term losses, and that's why you need to get those files recovered. And if it is really precious, then you can pay. But in that case, you need to judicially think, because even if you pay the ransom, there's no guarantee that you will get your files back. But if it is just $300, probably you can pay and see if you are able to recover from that situation. Or you can also negotiate with that person. Mostly you get an email to communicate with those guys. You can just ask them to send you some key so that you can recover few files first, and then probably you can pay some ransom, so that at least you know that these guys have the valid keys or not. Because sometimes these ransomwares are like proliferated to multiple peoples, and these attackers, they themselves do not know like what key will be applicable in what system, and that's why they get confused sometimes, and they are not able to share you the right keys, and even if you pay the ransom, the recovery will not happen. So you need to take that call judicially. I'll just share with you a flow chart first, that what action you can take in what situation. So suppose you are attacked by a ransomware. The very first thing you need to do is to remove your systems from network, and you need to isolate that servers. Those are actually infected, so that because they are always busy in encrypting the files, so normally this spread will be slow. But if you do not isolate your systems, eventually they will infect each and every systems connected to that network. So the very first thing you need to do is to disconnect your machines from any others and external drives, even network drives and everything. Just disconnect blindly. Use a smartphone. If suppose you are not able to get into the system, use a smartphone. Take those pictures of the pop-up screen, file a police complaint, and check for backups. Try decrypting files through standard library. I'll share with you some standard libraries through which you can decrypt most of these ransomwares. Not most of these, but of course, few of these ransomwares. So this could be your usual quick action which you need to do. Why you need to file police complaint? It is really, really important. And I'll tell you the reason, because to avoid any legal liabilities later on, you need to file that so that investigation should start, and you can, and if you are following all the compliance, and even though your system is compromised, probably you will be get away with that situation legally as well in future. Ransom decision, whether you should pay the ransom or you should not pay the ransom. So if you pay the ransom and decryption key is received, fortunately, restore the files, then clean the OS. That is very, very important, because even if you have recovered the file, that does not mean that your system is out of the ransomware and it is clean. So there are processes, there are step-by-step guidelines, and there are, so these guidelines are available on internet, and I'll share that with you, through which you should clean your systems first. Scan all the recovered files to check for backdoors, because sometimes these criminals, even if they have helped you to recover your files, they will leave some backdoors in your system, in your files itself, by renaming them so that you will not be able to differentiate, and the file size will also be same. And later on, after 1 year, 2 years, 6 months, you will realize like your system is again infected. So you should always take a consciously clean up drive in your servers so that in future you should not be again compromised. And if you are not paying ransom, then use antivirus or anti-malware software to clean the ransomware from this machine. Try recovering deleted files with tools such as Shadow Explorer is a very good tool, or the paid data recovery downloads. There are many paid tools as well. Which strain of encrypting ransomware you are dealing with? Try the Crypto Sheriff online tool or the ID ransomware online tool. So there are two very good online tools, Crypto Sheriff and ID ransomware. You can use them, and these are available online. These are free tools. You can try out those tools as well. So before we go further into this, how to decrypt, if we have Kanishk, are you there?
I'm there, Amit. So I just wanted to ask before we move forward, can we have interaction with the audience? Will the audience be able to unmute themselves and speak?
Unfortunately, I discussed with Shivani and she said, no, it's not possible. They can ask questions, but we cannot interact with them that lively.
Okay, fair enough. So Amit, so I have a scenario which I wanted to showcase where we have taken a country and how it how a simple attack can transform to a ransomware attack and impact a country's financial services system, which I'll run through, and then Amit can talk about how we can basically safeguard the financial services industry, the fintech market, from any cyber attacks.
So Shivani, can you give the sharing rights to Kanishk?
Yeah, I think I have this sharing rights. Let me just see if I can. Just give me a minute. I'll try and share my screen. I'll let you continue. I'll just try and share my screen. Give me a minute. Yeah. Amit, you can talk about the ransomware. I'll meanwhile try and share my screen. You're able to see my screen, everyone?
Yes, we can see the screen.
Great. So we are looking at this country which we have created called as Amestris. Amestris is a country which we have created as an imaginary country, and we have looked at a bank called as SEC Bank, which is considered to be the largest and most trustworthy bank in this country. The timeline of the ransomware attack is mentioned below. So out of nowhere, at 8 a.m., the customers of SEC Bank started receiving, complaints that they were unable to log into the website portal. Complaints about unfinished transactions and unavailability of website portal were occurring, and the SEC Bank's network became unavailable, and there was huge criticism on social media about this, and it was there on Twitter, Facebook. This is the first scenario which we see. Now, this is a typical scenario which we see in case of a ransomware. And Amit, given such a scenario, what do you think could be a typical step which a bank should do? Should they inform the CERT or should they not inform the CERT? What do you think would be a typical scenario a bank should take, given if they don't know whether it's a ransomware or not, but they start to see that their services start to become unavailable and customers start to make complaints?
See, Kanish, in any such situation, whether it is a ransomware attack or any other kind of cyber attack, you must inform CERT, because you get two advantages out of it. First of all, the CERT can use that information and it can start releasing advisory to other such nodes and organizations so that they can protect themselves. Because this attack has already happened with one organization, it can spread eventually. Like in a WannaCry situation, you would have observed, like when this NHS is compromised, they start releasing the advisories, and all other countries, those who are having the similar sort of vulnerabilities, Windows systems, they could protect themselves. And this attack started on Friday night, and next 2 days were Saturday and Sunday. So rather, it was very difficult to inform all these organizations in time, but then we could save ourselves, especially India was least affected. So we should inform. And second, if CERT has some already available information about that ransomware, they can help you to recover it from that situation. So either ways, it is a mutual responsibility. So I think this should be the very first step that we can take in that situation.
Sure, Amit. So moving on. So if we have to look at the pre-attack scenario, what are some early warning signs to detect and act on a possible ransomware attack? What could be the possible scenarios?
See, the only thing which you will know once, if it is actually the ransomware, you will see a pop-up screen because your server is locked. Your customers are complaining because they are not getting the access of their services. So if it is a web server and you are offering some services to your customers, you will start getting calls to your support channels, and the customers are complaining. You may also start getting such news on media, or maybe people are, because if it is a strategic attack, these state-sponsored bodies, they'll try to inform media houses or channels about this sort of compromise. So sometimes even you will get to know it very late, and the attack has already happened because and it has started showing you the reactions. And by the time you get to know, it is already late because most of your systems are compromised. So these will be the early signs that you would notice. You will get a call from your IT admin eventually, sir, I'm unable to log in because the system is logged and we are just able to see a pop-up screen. Or you will also see some disturbance in other services, because most of these services are integrated together. So your email is down, and then your normal website can also be compromised. And these are the sequence of events that will happen once you face a ransomware attack.
Sure. So in this scenario, Amit, the ransomware attack happens on this country, and this happened at 6 a.m. And we see that the banks starts to receive complaint that the user are unable to have transaction, websites become inaccessible, and customers start to panic. The next thing what happens at 9:30 a.m. is that there is criticism on social media and it shoots up, and the brand name of SEC Bank starts to take a terrible hit. As the day progresses, the bank starts to lose its trust, which it had built over a period of time with the customers. And as we move ahead, at 11 a.m., we see the SEC Bank has to take a call whether they should inform the CERT. Now, as per you, they should inform the CERT, right? Now, at what stage do you think they should get the CERT involved? Yeah.
So I think noticing this attack at 9 a.m. and then informing the CERT at 2, I think it is little late. It should have been done earlier, because it is this is the first thing which can help you to recover from that situation. And you should have a very quick communication with CERT, and you will also be able to help others to eventually be affected with sort of attack. So I think this is something which you should have done earlier. But informing CERT is definitely a mandatory process. You should inform it as soon as possible.
Sure. Now, SecBank informed the National Computer Emergency Response Team that the systems got encrypted and the network is unaccessible. Now, at 5:30 p.m., they realized that the SecBank senior manager's IT system is completely locked, and the confidential information is stolen, and they can no more access the file. They're not able to access the files. Now, given the scenario, you already have the CERT involved. Do they need to bring in any third party, like a private investigator? Should they coordinate with CERT? What kind of action do you think they should do at this stage?
Definitely, Ganesh. As you rightly mentioned, like we need to find the root cause of this attack as soon as possible. If you know that root cause, you will know how to recover with that situation. Because if it has been targeted through email servers, then probably you need to identify if this email is still being circulated across your employees or not. Because see, you have yourself said in that situation that a senior manager system is locked. Now it is his personal system. So which means not only your servers, because your websites were down, this was your early sign that you got that feelings or feedbacks from your customers that they are unable to access your website, which means your server is down, it is infected. And now it is being going ahead and it is probably like spreading to your endpoints, which is much more dangerous. Now, if you would have taken a call of engaging a investigator, which can help you to identify the root of that root cause of that attack, you could have avoided these sort of situations as early as possible. So that is required. Second, CERT can also investigate for you. If you have that sort of engagement with that CERT, they can also take those steps ahead and identify the root causes. Then you can also take the help from these investigators to identify the possible decrypting tools, because these people they already know the types of ransomwares and the available tools in open source or paid tools. There are a few paid tools as well, and you can start using them also as soon as possible.
Sure, Amit, I wanted to stop you here. Now, you in your presentation spoke about 3 different types of ransomware. Now, how do I find out which scenario is it? What kind of ransomware it is? What are the few things that I could do to find out what kind of ransomware has infected me?
So normally, as I said, like there could be one screen locking software. The screen locking software has just locked your screen, so you are not able to log in because it does not show your login email ID, so login credentials options. It is just showing you a pop-up, and there's no other option available. But you can get away with that situation easily using a little resetting techniques, where you can either do Control Alt Escape and Control Alt Delete and start opening the task manager and killing those processes. Those have actually those are running in background and showing you that pop-up screen. They are just some background applications. They have not encrypted your files. They have not damaged your system, but they are exclusively running backend application processes. Those you can kill very easily. So this is very first thing which you should try. Second thing is something which is pretending to be a ransomware, but which is not even a screen locking software or a ransomware. In that situation also, the behavior will be very same. You will have a pop-up screen, but it will just be compromising your browser, nothing else. So if you kill your browser, you will get away with that situation. The third, which is actually the most serious in nature, is when your files are encrypted and you are not able to browse anything in your system, and or even if you are able to browse your system, you see encrypted files. So if you are able to see encrypted files with different extensions, and these extensions those are suffixed with your file names, they will let you know which kind of ransomware is this. So you can simply copy that suffix, search it on Google, and you will quickly find, oh, this is that sort of ransomware.
Sure. Thanks, Amit. Moving forward, Thursday 10:08 a.m., they are able to identify this is a Petya ransomware. And the CERT informed SecBank about their entire network being compromised by Petya ransomware. And they became a victim of a large-scale ransomware attack. Now, the impact that we see on SecBank is that their stock prices began to tumble. There's a free fall because SecBank is a listed bank on the national stock exchange of the country, and public money is invested, and public starts to lose sentiment on this bank. Uh, given they decide to temporarily halt the trade because it's a very large stock which is there, and what do you think could be done by the bank? Should they have created measures? Should they have halted the trading? Could be there be certain best practices there they could have taken into consideration given this scenario?
See, so there are two kind of losses that you see in that situation. You have rightly mentioned, because the criminal, if they are state-sponsored bodies, they will definitely use media channels to spread this news as fast as possible before you take an action, and your share price will be compromised. So you will be in double pressure. First, you are losing your file. Second, your market valuation is also going down. In that situation, you have to take two reactive steps. First, you have to recover your market valuation. In that case, you should always be in denial mode, of course, because you should not accept it and you should always say like your damage is minimal. Even if you have to accept that, you should always give this confidence to your partners or the shareholders that your minimal systems are affected and it's not going to damage much. That itself will give confidence to your shareholders, and they will try to reduce this trade as fast as possible. Second, you should always give some positive information, like we have engaged these bodies, we have engaged these investigators, we have informed CERT, and they are taking supportive actions for this, which also gives confidence that you are a mature organization and you are taking collaborative reactions, and you are not just getting away with that situation by just being in denial mode. In most of the situations we have seen, like, because people start denying the entire thing, it creates a different perception among people. They think like something big happened and these guys are not accepting it. In case of, I'll name some of these organizations. In case of Zoomcar attack, when they were attacked by ransomware, they were instantly in denial mode, and they said that nothing has happened. And the very next day, some of their data points were published on different news portals, and then they were in soup because they could not accept that as well. So you should always take a very judicial call when you are sharing any such thing in media and public. And second, you can always stop your trade. You have that right, so that when you recover with that situation, you can start again. You can again open the trade of your shares.
Sure. Amit, this brings us to a perfect example of Goldman Sachs. When Goldman Sachs got hacked, they informed their shareholders, their investors, and they made a public sentiment they are hacked. They also informed, the CERT of that country about the hack. They also told about which is the company they have engaged, how the company Goldman Sachs is going to impact it, the measures they took to safeguard. And such a scenario, their stocks actually initially declined, but the share price actually ran up. So it's never actually a scenario. The share prices will go down if the company is transparent. The company, it takes measures to safeguard itself. So Goldman Sachs is a perfect landing, I thought, is where company stock price actually rose post they underwent a cyber attack.
So true. Yes, absolutely.
Now, another scenario which we see which happens here is that information targeting SecBank starts to spread on the internet. Suddenly, there is news on one of the portals claiming that SecBank CTO has been asked to resign, and confirmation is pending from SecBank. There's another claim that SecBank situations that it's potentially the largest attack on the SecBank's network that has happened so far, and another aspect which it talks about it, that review of the policies, infrastructure, and response to SecBank takes place in total shutdown. There's another news that hackers are demanding, more than 133K US dollars to fix SecBank's network and give them access. And all of this news is going in public. What do you think could be a response to this? Should SecBank hold on for making any public statement, or should they make a public statement with so much amount of information spreading about them?
See, in any such situation, managing these news on social media is really challenging. So I always recommend to mainly these organizations to have their own social media monitoring tools and a team as well. And they should quickly respond to these reactions. Most of these reactions would come anonymously because these are strategically being posted to put pressure on you. And you should always complain against them to police that they are spreading false claims. And normally in this situation, nobody fires their CTO so instantly. It never happens. So, but it is just created, it is just posted there so that people will lose trust from the organization, like they are in panic situation and something big is going to happen. You should always give clear statement about clarifying the situation. And you should also report to police. Like there are some organizations which are trying to defame or use the benefit, take the benefit of the situation. And then these can be removed instantly through the social media platform, these handles, it happens. So that we can reduce the impact of these news. And second, you should always come up in media. You should not just be in silos. You should always use these platforms to spread positive news about your organization and step by step processes that you are taking ahead. And your if you will be transparent, I think you will be able to win trust with your customers.
Okay, Amit, two questions here. First question, should there be official communication that should come from SEC Bank? And if that communication needs to come from SEC Bank, who should be making that communication? That's my question number two.
See, ideally in security breaches, I have seen that most of these statements come from through CEOs directly, but I would recommend it should come through CIOs or your CISOs. Why? Because they are the right guys. When they will speak, they'll speak more. They'll give more relevant information. They'll not just give some notional values to their customers, rather the concrete steps which they have taken. So CISOs and CIOs are the right guys, and if they give that complete picture of the step-by-step processes that they are going to take to avoid this situation or to reduce the impact of that situation, I think people will have much more trust on them.
Great, thanks, Amit. Amit, another thing that we see is that organizations a lot of times have business continuity defined in their organization. Uh, at what stage do you think these organizations should invoke their BCP so that there is an overall mechanism to respond to safeguard processes? Should that happen once the information goes public, or should that happen much earlier? The invocation, invoking the business continuity of the organization.
See, as we have observed, like any such attack will hamper not only one system, one service, but will eventually being percolated to each and every wing of your organization. And that's why you should start taking these reactive actions as early as possible. You should not wait that it is already in public and then you are improving your business continuity processes, because there might be logistics issues, there might be HR issues, there might be salary issues, there might be many such financial issues which will eventually be reflected because of this one attack. And then it will be very difficult later on to justify each and every kind of loss. If you will start taking actions as early as possible and clearing those kind of gaps or isolating those systems, I think you can reduce the impact.
Thank you, Amit. Another important issue that we see today is a lot of platforms intentionally spread fake news and misinformation, and their purpose is to do that. If an organization finds, like a bank, that certain platforms today are intentionally spreading fake news and misinformation about their business, uh, should they take action? If yes, what kind of action they should take about these organizations, given we have the new IT laws coming into in the country, the social media and intermediary guidelines?
Yeah, I think these new guidelines are a great move to stop such kind of things, but when it will really be reflected in practice, I think we have enough time. The social media platforms will have to implement many of these features in their systems. Even till then, we need to be little conscious of such kind of moves, because there are some bodies, those are taking the advantage of these platforms, spreading false news about you. And we have recently seen about a big organization. I think we all know, like their share price was slashed by 23% in a day because of one false claim. And all media houses, channels, they picked up that as a news and they start showing that. Now it happens. It can happen with anybody. I also remember one case when one big organization, I can't name it here, but they came to me, they approached me and they said that there are some social media handles, there are some fake news portals, websites, and they are actually showing some false claims about our organization, that we have 20,000 crores of loss inside and we are hiding it and something like that. We have some issues with the banks, and it is creating distrust with our customers. And in fact, with using those false claims, RBI started an auditing team. RBI deployed an auditing team to do the complete audit of their organization. So you can see the reaction of a false claim in a media channel or in a social media, how long it could go eventually. So this particular organization, they asked me to identify the person who has done this. Though we could identify him within 3-4 days, but even in these 3-4 days, they lost a lot. So this is something which we should do on a regular basis. Social media, proactively social media monitoring, brand monitoring, taking reactive actions continuously. You can't just wait for that, because once it becomes big, then it is very difficult to recover from that loss.
Sure. Now, here what happens, SEC Bank denies all the claims and it alleges that it's a victim of disinformation and fake news perpetrated to target its reputation. Should a bank make such public claims given they have public money? Would the customers believe if something like this happens today? Or should the bank should a bank take official complaints against these organizations? Do you think this is the right step which has been done by SEC Bank given it's a public bank?
See, as I said rightly, like, you should be transparent. See, making any such claim will give onus on you. If tomorrow any such data leaks goes public and people get to know about that, then I think the credibility loss that you will suffer will be much higher. So you should not make any such statement without knowing the impact of it. If you know, okay, this is a very small component which is being affected, you can make such a statement, because eventually your losses are not high and you can always justify that data breach. But if it is really serious in nature, I think making such statements will backfire you in future, and you will lose trust of your customers.
Thanks, Amit. I will stop here and bring in Shivani. Shivani, if you've got any questions from the audience you want to bring in to share with us.
Yeah, I've just shared it on chat.
Sure.
One question.
So, Amit, I'll read out the question. The question is, how does FBI and Interpol seize data on dark and deep web?
Okay, first of all, we need to understand, like, deep and dark webs are not controlled by any such legal, authentic organization through which you can just send a request and you can take it down. Even FBI has to go through various offensive channels to take them down eventually, either making DDoS attack or compromising their systems, because most of these websites, those are running on deep and dark web, they are not secure. They can be hacked easily, but then you need to deploy people those can actually do this job for you. So police is taking help of it. And if you notice, when this recent Twitter hack happened, FBI engaged few ethical hackers, and they used a hacked database of this chat box. What was that? Discord. Discord was a chat messaging service which is anonymous, and their database was leaked in dark web. So they acquired that database and they found the handles versus email IDs, and the people that were involved in this hack, they knew their handles because they were selling this as a service in dark web. So they could identify, they could match the exact email IDs with reference to those handles and could eventually trace out those people. So these are the approaches which even FBI and these organizations are taking. Interpol is relying on. There is no direct way of seizing those websites or taking them down, because there are some vested bodies. They are helping this business to grow because they have some vested interests. That's why there's no direct way of control the dark web and the deep web.
Thanks, Amit. I've got some more questions for you. If you're able to see my screen, I'm sharing my screen right now. Now, I've classified this as 3 stages of a ransomware attack: pre-attack, attack, and post-attacks. We spoke on the pre-attack. I want to talk more about the attack phase. What should companies do in wake of an immediate ransomware attack? What should be the first step? If you figure out that you could be a potential victim of a ransomware attack, what should the first step the company should take?
The very first step is to isolate your systems. To isolate your system so that you can stop spreading it and you can minimize the damage. Because these ransomware, they take time to encrypt your files. If you have GBs and terabytes of informations in your systems, they may take some time. This process is running background. Once the system is encrypted completely, it will go to the next system. By the time, if you isolate it, you can stop its spread, which should be the very first step. Then you should inform the relevant bodies, like certain bodies, and you should also engage an investigator. We should quickly start identifying the root cause of the system. especially the mail servers. We all know that there could be three potential ways through which the ransomware can reach to your systems, either through your network, either through your emails, or through your websites, because your website has some vulnerability and through which any such malware dropper in script is incorporated, and anybody in your organization has accessed that website, so eventually their system was compromised. So you need to focus on these three aspects quickly, whether our website has any such sort of malware dropper, or my email server, or any mail has been received in my email server which could have any such potential attachment or link, or the network vulnerability. So I think this could be your starting approach.
Okay. Amit, at what stage should you take a call whether to pay the ransom or negotiate or not pay the ransom? And what could be certain alternate plans if you decide not to pay the ransom?
So I think within few hours, within 3 to 4 hours, you get to know the clear picture. You should sit with your team, your IT admins and CISOs and all relevant people, and you should understand the damage first. Like how many files are encrypted? What kind of files are these? Do we have backup of these files? If suppose we have backups, then what all gaps are there? Because if this backup happens every day, so probably you have lost only a day of information which can be recovered easily later on, which can be sourced from different channels. So you need to discuss those points first with your team. If you know that most of these files, 80-90% information can be recovered because of my backup, because of my other channels, because of my browser histories and whatever, I think you should not pay the ransom. And then if you know, like, because 80-90% files we are not able to recover, and these are really critical for our business, and our entire growth depends on it, our valuation depends on it, I think there's no harm negotiating with the attacker. But you should not directly pay the ransom. I would always advise to send them an email and asking them to make it face by face, so that you should also build trust with the attacker, and it should not happen that you pay something and you don't get anything in return.
Sure. Amit, what could be a possible way to respond in a coordinated way to a ransomware attack? What do you think could be a best way to coordinate within the organization and outside with suppliers and distributors?
See,
The
first of all, yeah. So first of all, you should always have a response team in place. Most of our organizations, they don't know in that situation whom to call, whom to inform. They inform everybody. They inform CEOs to CTOs, and they are not required actually in that situation. And you should have relevant stakeholders in chain and a hierarchical way of sending this information upside down. And that is something which is missing in most of our organizations. In any, so if suppose, and there could be many such situations. Suppose I'm a bank, and we have a dedicated 24/7 SOC, Security Operations Center, which is monitoring our traffic. They will be the first one who would know about such kind of breach and compromise. And now we should have a process in place, like how should they react, to whom they should inform, and then the recovery options or plan or a task force should be created quickly with 3-4 teams, 3-4 members, and then they can take corrective actions, like to whom they should inform, legal responses, policy, media. One person should manage the media, one person should manage the cert and all, one person should manage the compliance, and the fourth person should investigate to find the root cause, and then another person who should actually start taking calls on behalf of the entire team while negotiating with the attacker.
Thanks, Amit. Amit, my next question is with respect to crisis and recovery. How do you assess the damage and how do you plan for the recovery? A lot of times, organizations who have been through a ransomware attack don't know where to start and where to end it.
Yeah, so actually understanding the loss is a very complex process. Sometimes we think that losing an information may not impact us in future because it is a very secluded information. It may not be used against us eventually, but that visibility will not be with everyone, and we need the right set of people, those can understand, okay, this information can be misused in future, in what all ways, so that we can actually extrapolate the losses. It is not only one time loss, it can have multiple phases of loss in future. For example, and that's why this analysis is important here. Like, we need to understand whether it is $20 million loss, whether it is $90 million, or where are we, and accordingly the insurance claim will happen. Most of us do have the insurances and all, so to have the right set of claim also, we need to do this exercise. And this exercise should involve not only the instant loss of that business, but also the future losses which can happen because of that. Because if you would have observed recently, these ransomwares, they take a copy of this entire data and they leak it on dark web. Once this data is available on dark web, you start getting another kind of threat in future, and the losses will be there because of that as well. So impact of that data breach is not instant, it is continuous. It will keep on bothering you in future as well, and that should be the right criteria to estimate the loss and recovery, like how much claim you should make to your insurance company.
Sure. Amit, other instance that we find out is when you lose data, which is customer data, which happens, right? Should you inform the customers that your data has been compromised and what could be a potential impact and measures they could take to safeguard themselves? Or should you just not inform the customers?
No, definitely. That's a very important move and very, I think it can save you from various future attacks because if someone's email IDs, passwords are leaked and it is available in dark web, or their location data. For example, we have already observed the Domino's leak, and there was a link circulating on WhatsApp where you could just put the mobile number of anybody and you can see how many pizzas they have ordered in last many years. Now, this could be a simple pizza order information or their food habits informations, but their locations were there, the kind of test they have, all these informations were there. This can be used by criminals against them in future to build trust with their target. So I think this should have been done. You should inform your customers, okay, this information is already in public, so if you receive a call, please be cautious, please be alert, because this can be misused against you. I think you are on mute, Kanishk.
Sorry, Amit, another exercise which companies do is they check their disaster recovery and they look at their restoration policies, they do simulation. How important is this exercise? And should this be done specifically with respect to a ransomware attack which could impact their systems?
Actually, all these exercises are not not especially designed for ransomware attack. These are for any other kind of cyber attacks, because these are the simulations where you are into that situation and you need to react.
Yes.
And they estimate the time of reaction, the impact, and also the losses eventually which can happen because of that attack. So they simulate different other kind of attacks. Suppose business email compromise attack, suppose your the website compromise attack, or whether your data breaches or ransomware. So there are multiple kind of situations where you will be into, and these are really important exercises, because you can check the health of your system through these simulations, and then it's like preparing yourself for a war which will eventually happen. So if you won't do this exercise, you will always be in panic and you will always be surprised and you will not be able to coordinate in time. So I think this is really required, and these are the possible ways to strengthen your system.
Amit, possibly with respect to ransomware, should we do some testing, exercising, because large number of ransomware attacks are happening, or we still go just doing generic testing?
So I think, yeah, so we need to understand the attack vectors. Like ransomware is just a malware, but then when it reaches to your system, what are the possible ways through which it can reach? It can reach to you through business email compromise. It can reach to you through your network vulnerabilities. It can reach to you through website vulnerabilities. And we need to simulate those situations, not only for ransomware, but any other kind of spyware, malware. And then you need to do this frequently to your organization, and you need to see the impact of it. You may not be stealing the information, you may not be encrypting the actual systems, but you may create a simulated situation where their screens are locked and the person is into that situation and in fear. Once they will see the impact of it, they will be more conscious in future. So I think we should do it for using all kind of attack vectors which can be used.
Sure.
Yes.
Now, Amit, what kind of investment should companies make so that they don't undergo ransomware attack? If they want to make themselves completely foolproof from ransomware attack, what could they do from a people, process, and technology standpoint? What kind of investments?
Yeah, so I think we need to work in all of these three verticals. First, you need to strengthen your technical ecosystem. You need to have regular backup processes, which is must, because in most of these situations we can only these backups will save us, and this should be more frequent. Second, there should be data diode in place so that wherever you are storing this data, there should be only unidirectional data flow. And second, you should always have these simulation exercises. So technology where you are using parameter security system, IPS IDS, firewall update, patch update processes, endpoint security systems, and also SOCs in place, they can monitor regular traffics and the possible attack vectors. This is anywhere required. So this is a very important ask. Second is people, because unless until you have a right level of cyber hygiene among your key people and all employees, you will not be able to 100% protected from these kind of attacks. So you should have a regular exercise where you can train your people to have a level of cyber hygiene while simulating these situation scenarios, using social engineering scenarios as well. And we do it with most of these organizations to strengthen their cyber hygiene. And the processes in place. So as I said, like processes are like patch processes should be in place, regular audit should be in place, regular security assessment should be in place, and regular you should always have these social engineering tests on a regular basis. So you should make it a part of a process. Once these processes are in place, and the communication process as well, like in any situation, where to inform, how to seek help, who will be the responsible person. If you don't have those identities clearly defined, even if you have right set of information, tools, technologies in place, you will always be in chaos. So I think those processes should be intact, and these processes also should be tested time to time.
So thanks, Amit. Thank you so much for your guidance. With this, we have come to the end of this session. Thank you everyone for joining us. If you've got any questions or queries, you can reach out to Amit and me. The IMI team will share our coordinates. Feel free to reach out. Thank you very much, Amit, and thank you, audience, for hearing us out for this session on ransomware. All the best. Have a great day ahead.
Thank you, Kanishk. Thank you, Shivani.
Well, thank you, speakers, for such an insightful workshop. Thank you to all our audience as well who are here with us today. Thank you, everyone. Stay safe.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.